The morning light spilled through the glass walls of Langford Technologies, a towering symbol of wealth and ambition in the heart of London's financial district. The lobby gleamed. Marble floors, chrome pillars, soft jazz playing faintly in the background. Every inch of the place spoke of success. At 5:30 a.m., before the first employee arrived, Samuel Bryant was already there, a man in his late 50s. Tall but slightly stooped, his uniform navy blue and his gloves worn from years of work. His movements were quiet, deliberate. Each sweep of his mop, each polish of the brass railing, reflected a simple pride, the kind that comes from doing something well, no matter who's watching. Most mornings, no one noticed Samuel. They walked past him, earbuds in, eyes glued to screens. But he didn't mind. He'd learned long ago that respect isn't something people give freely. You earn it in silence. He often hummed softly while cleaning, old soul songs his wife used to love before she passed. Her voice still echoed in his memory. Sam, kindness always finds its way back to you. But that morning, kindness seemed far away. By 8 a.m., the CEO, Richard Langford, arrived. Tall, clean-cut, expensive suit tailored to perfection. His polished shoes clicked across the floor like punctuation marks of authority. He was known for running a tight ship, efficient, ruthless, and allergic to mistakes. In his hand, as always, was a white ceramic mug with gold trim, the company's logo embossed across it. Everyone at Langford Tech knew that mug. It had belonged to Richard's late father, the company's founder. Richard treated it like a relic, a reminder of legacy and pressure. As he entered, Samuel was wiping down the glass table near the lobby sofa. He smiled warmly. Samuel. Morning, sir. Richard, absent-mindedly. Morning. He placed the mug on the table, checked his phone, and began scrolling through emails. Samuel, stepping back to mop a spill nearby, didn't see the wet streak his mop left behind. Richard's briefcase brushed the handle. The mug teetered, spun once, and shattered against the marble floor. The sound was small, but it might as well have been thunder. Everyone in the lobby froze. Richard turned sharply, eyes narrowing. Richard. What did you just do? Samuel froze, voice trembling. Sir, I'm sorry. It slipped. Richard's jaw tightened. His voice calm but cold. Richard. That mug belonged to my father. It's irreplaceable. Samuel. I didn't mean... Richard cut him off. Intentions don't matter when you break what's valuable. The HR assistant, Maya, standing nearby, tried to intervene. Maya. Sir, it's just... Richard, snapping. It's not just anything. This company thrives on discipline. If we start tolerating carelessness, where does it end? The silence was heavy. Even the air conditioning seemed to pause. Samuel stood still, eyes wet but steady. If you think I don't care, sir, you're mistaken. I've spent 10 years making sure this place shines every morning before anyone steps in. But maybe you only see the things money can replace. Richard, coldly. Clean out your locker. You're done here. Samuel nodded quietly. He picked up the broken pieces carefully, as if still protecting something fragile. Then he placed them on the counter, removed his gloves, and walked out into the gray London drizzle. As the glass doors closed behind him, Richard turned away, brushing invisible dust off his sleeve, as though wiping off the inconvenience. But deep down, something lingered, a faint, uncomfortable echo of guilt. He pushed it aside. There was a board meeting in 10 minutes, and Richard Langford didn't have time for regret. 3 days later, Langford Technologies buzzed with energy. Investors from New York were flying in for the biggest pitch of the year. Every employee was on edge. Every slide, every graph, every data point had to be flawless. Richard moved briskly through the corridor, scanning his tablet. He looked sharp, confident, the kind of man who thrived under pressure. Maya, his assistant, followed close behind. Maya. Sir, the catering's set, presentation files backed up, and... Oh, we still haven't hired a replacement for Samuel. Richard. We'll manage. Just make sure the floors don't look like a disaster zone. She bit her tongue. She had liked Samuel. Always kind, always humming old tunes. The place felt emptier without him. At 10:30 a.m., Richard stood in his office on the top floor, staring at the skyline. The investors would arrive in 30 minutes. Everything had to be perfect. He poured himself coffee into a temporary mug, cheap company ceramic, not his father's, and took a sip. It didn't taste the same. A small, irrational flicker of irritation crossed his face. Downstairs, in the maintenance level, a faulty server cooling unit began to spark. The system flickered, then a faint burning smell drifted into the air. No one noticed at first. Everyone was upstairs preparing for the meeting. At 10:47 a.m., the fire alarm blared. Employees froze. Red lights flashed. Automated voice. "Attention! Fire detected on level 14. Please proceed to the nearest exit." Panic spread like electricity. Richard frowned. This must be a glitch. Maya. "Sir, we should evacuate." Richard. "We lose this meeting. We lose millions. I'm not leaving." He grabbed his laptop and strode toward the server room to check the power feed. But as the elevator doors opened, thick smoke poured in. The sprinklers hadn't triggered yet. The air smelled of burning plastic. By the time he reached the hallway, visibility was almost gone. The heat stung his face. He coughed, shouting over the alarm. "Richard, hello? Anyone down here?" No response. He turned back, but the smoke grew denser. The emergency exit sign glowed faintly through the haze, but the flames were spreading fast. He stumbled, dropped his laptop, gasped for air. His lungs burned. He tried to cover his face with his sleeve, but it wasn't enough. His legs buckled. The world dimmed. Through the smoke, a faint beam of light appeared. A flashlight. A voice shouted, "Sir, hold on!" Richard blinked, disoriented. That voice, familiar. A figure emerged through the haze, covering his mouth with a wet cloth. It was Samuel. "Samuel, you need to move, sir." "Come on!" Richard, coughing. "Samuel, what are you doing here?" "Samuel, I came to collect my final payslip. Guess I showed up at the right time." He slung Richard's arm over his shoulder. The heat pressed in from all sides, the floor slick with water and ash. Every step was agony. But Samuel pushed on, guiding him toward the stairwell. The flames roared behind them like a beast. They stumbled down the stairs, Richard half-conscious, Samuel wheezing but determined. Halfway down, a ceiling panel collapsed with a deafening crash. Samuel shielded the CEO with his own body, taking the brunt of the debris. They finally burst through the emergency exit into the open air. The cold wind hit them, smoke rising behind like a storm cloud. Paramedics rushed forward. Richard was pulled onto a stretcher. He coughed violently, gasping for air, his vision blurry. But before losing consciousness, he saw Samuel sitting nearby. Face blackened with soot, blood on his forehead, yet calm. And for the first time, Richard didn't see a janitor. He saw a man who had risked his life for him. The same man he'd humiliated days before. Hours later, in St. Mary's Hospital, the faint hum of machines filled the air. Richard woke to the sterile scent of disinfectant and the soft beep of a monitor. His assistant sat by the bed, relief flooding her face. "Maya, you're awake. Thank God." Richard, weakly. "The office?" "Maya, fire department contained it. Minor damage, no casualties." He exhaled shakily. Richard, "Samuel?" Maya smiled faintly. "He's fine. Saved your life. He's in the next room." A few hours later, Richard walked, still pale, wearing a hospital gown, into the adjoining room. Samuel sat by the window, an IV drip beside him, flipping through an old newspaper. When he looked up, his expression was calm, almost amused. "Samuel, didn't think you'd make it through all that smoke, sir." Richard swallowed hard. "Richard, I don't know how to thank you." Samuel smiled faintly. "You already did, sir. You gave me 10 years of honest work. That's worth something." Richard, quietly. "It wasn't enough. I was cruel. That mug, it was just a thing. You were trying to help, and I treated you like you didn't matter." Samuel, "We all break things sometimes, sir. What matters is whether we learn to fix what's left." The words landed deeper than Samuel probably intended. A few days later, back at the office, the smoke damage was gone. But something in Richard had changed. He walked slower now, greeted people by name, took time to listen. He called an all-staff meeting. Richard stood before the crowd. No tie, no rehearsed speech. Richard: "I built this company thinking success meant never making mistakes. But a man I once dismissed showed me what real strength looks like. Humility, patience, and courage. I owe him my life and my apology." The crowd went silent. Then Samuel, now in a fresh uniform, stepped forward, hesitant. Richard extended his hand. "Richard, welcome back, Mr. Bryant, as head of building operations." "You've earned it." Applause broke out. Samuel nodded, humble as ever. "Samuel, thank you, sir. Just doing what needed to be done." A week later, a small parcel appeared on Samuel's desk. Inside, a new white mug with gold trim, identical to the one that broke. A handwritten note read, "For Samuel, the man who taught me what can't be replaced. Richard." Samuel smiled, setting it on his desk before pouring himself tea. The mug gleamed in the sunlight, fragile but whole again. He took a slow sip and looked out at the skyline, the city alive with movement. Somewhere in those glass towers, a CEO was learning the value of people over possessions.